Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of T3PO Live. My name is VashSky. I'm your host of today's ceremonies. Wow, been hosting a lot lately. What is going on there? Woo! Man, boy, I just came in from Palm Springs. Actually, let me see here. 28 hours ago? And boy, are my arms tired. But in order to help me lift this show with my weak arms, we have some impressive guests that could do more than just lift their show. They are attractions in and of themselves. And boy, we're going to be talking about those a lot on today's show. I can't wait to get into it. Let's go ahead and get into it right now. First and foremost, my co-host for, well, actually, I say co-host, really, he's the star of Hollywood Backlit with Lou and you on Sundays. It's going to be Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. The one, the only, Lou Wasserman's Ghost. Lou! Are you back there, sir? Happy to be the wind beneath your wings, amigo. Ah, thank you so much. Man, I love doing these shows with you, and I will especially appreciate your Disneyland history, knowledge, and expertise, because we've got some Disneyland stories up on the docket. And to help us out with more of the technical when it comes to ride shows and attractions, and especially coasters, one, the only, Erika from Erika and Raf from Germany. Hello there, Erika.
Hello.
Hello there.
She was tempting us in the pre-show hours with those cookies, and we're all drooling, so.
Ah, yes.
Strawberry cheesecake cookies.
Did you bring enough for the whole class?
If I did, I wouldn't share.
Oh, man. We were just going over our favorite cookies right there. And I got to be honest with you. Those, what is it? Oh, Gideon's cookies from Disney Springs. Change your life. That is for sure.
Never had
hopefully
one.
they got there.
No, I haven't either. But when I read all the politics involved, I decided maybe there was a hidden indigestive factor in that. But you talked me into dipping into. I have this. I had never had before, but I saw somebody advertising it, and I ordered some buckwheat honey. and it has a completely different palette of flavor than regular honey. It's dark, it's almost smoky, and oh wow, is it delightful.
Wow. Ooh, good stuff right there. I'm gonna check that buckwheat honey. Let me go ahead and write that down.
It's almost gray black in the jar. That's how dark it is.
Wow.
But it's awfully good. Awfully good.
Hello there, DL Fendel. Hanging with Erika and Raf is also in the chat as well. Good to see that. B-Man, thank you so much for moderating. Juliet, appreciating your moderating services as well. Folks, let's go ahead and get into our first story. This from Laughing Place. Yes, Laughing Place is still a thing, even though the Laughing Place, at least at Disneyland and Walt Disney World, are both gone. I always find that ironic. Here we go. From laughingplace.com. Photos video. Disneyland's Autotopia closes after car derails. The attraction derailed during the, quote, off-road section near the Matterhorn. That's ironic. This by Max and Faber.
Off-road, eh?
Yes, and Mike Celestino.
Previews of coming attractions to come to the former Tom Sawyer Island at Walt Disney World, right?
That's a good point right there. I love that. The Autopia attraction at Disneyland experienced a minor accident earlier today. This was June 4, 2025. A little older, but still relevant. And I'll get to why in a second. When one of the gas-powered cars derailed from the track. Earlier today, Disneyland's Autopia experienced an extended closure after one of the ride vehicles derailed. The attraction, which gives guests of all ages the thrill of driving a car, runs alongside a guide rail runs on a guide rail, I should say, to prevent the cars from traveling outside the attraction's ride path. While uncommon, Autopia vehicle will occasionally jump the low-to-ground guide rail, meaning that this isn't a major concern for the safety of park guests. However, Disneyland was quick to close the attraction as they returned the vehicle to its correct position. And this occurred near the Matterhorn bobsleds and was visible in front of guests. You can kind of see some video, actually, from off to the side right there, because this attraction comes very, very close to a walking path that's right alongside the Matterhorn in the Tomorrowland meets Fantasyland section of the park, roughly. You can see right there, not too good, a little bit scary. This is interesting.
What scares me is that if it's at all on the track, even though it's off, what about the cars coming up behind it, who maybe turn a corner and suddenly find a derailed car in their way? That would be spooky.
Yeah, that's no good. And they have cast members stationed at various positions in order to ensure that, because there's really no way to detect Autopia vehicles at this point. You kind of have to do it by eye.
I wonder if they'll put some kind of tracking device in them when someday it becomes electric instead of gas. And when is that supposed to be anyway?
And I wanted to bring that up because we'll remember that the state of California has been making it a little bit, or will be making it, I should say, in the coming years, a bit more difficult to actually get a hold of gas-powered engines in the state. And consistent with that regulation, and maybe more so, Disney, that is, announced that, and yes, looks like Theme Park Wizard has it right in the chat right there, 2026. They announced that they were going to begin that conversion process from gas to electric around that time. But we have seen no updates on that specific project right there. And yes, it was announced last year, Wizard. I was going to try to find the actual post on that. It's interesting because even though I say formally announced or officially announced by Disney, it also wasn't. it kind of was like teased as part of a larger article, and it's they didn't put a Disney Parks blog post about it. And so a lot of people were like, well, is this actually happening or not? Yeah, see, Theme Park Wizard. Crickets. Yes, lots of crickets indeed. You can almost hear them now.
What's interesting to me, just in that video you're showing, is the average age of the drivers is like 20s, maybe. Mm-hmm. And that whole attraction's fascination and original attraction was that kids who were not old enough to drive real cars could drive cars in there. It was kind of a mark of growing maturity that, oh boy, I can actually drive a car. And now, what are these people's excuses? I don't know.
That's the weird thing about it, because Autopia, at least when it first opened in July 17, 1955, actually, it was an opening day attraction. It was immensely popular. In fact, I think for the first 5 years of Disneyland's lifespan, it was like
one
a
of the
top 3 attraction.
Yeah. I even have a very unique souvenir that they used to give out, not anymore, as far as I know. It is an Autopia driver's license that they gave you. And it's Mickey's driver's license in the style of a California real driver's license, only it's Mickey Mouse's picture, and it gives his date of birth of the date of premiere of Steamboat Willie. But then afterwards, in parentheses, it says, yet eternally youthful. For real, I'll show you sometime.
Eternally youthful. That's very interesting.
Well, so.
Yes, there you go. This is the article right here, and unfortunately we can't show it because, well, it's going to prevent us from showing this because of, well, there you go. Disneyland just promised electric cars at Autopia gas will be gone by 2026. We have heard nothing on this, and so it makes me wonder, are they just not maintaining this to the degree that they probably should be in terms of like preventing these derailments from actually happening?
Which has been their pattern. It's like, let's give up on spending any money because we're going to rip it out in 3 years anyway, right?
Right, exactly. And so, it's kind of quite an interesting attraction because we understand anyway that this is going to be heading on its way out at some point in the future. It's probably going to have new sponsors attached to it. It has a sponsor right now in the form of Honda, but do you throw good money after bad? Well, in this case, they might not be throwing any money at this, so these derailments might be a more regular occurrence as time goes on.
Especially because the car companies are kind of backing off from electric cars with the end of subsidies from the government. So we'll see.
And indeed, the political and, well, the actual environment has changed quite considerably now, hasn't it? We'll have to see what actually happens with this. The one last note I'll put on this is that I believe it was Sam Genoway, who has a great history of Disneyland book. It is a mandatory viewing, folks, if you are a historian like me and you want to know more about Walt Disney's original Magic Kingdom out there in California. He details that I think within the first 10, 20 years, they had more than 7 updates to the actual
well, there were 2 of them at one point. There was a Fantasyland one and a Tomorrowland one, and they were separate tracks.
Right. And then, back in the 1998 version of Tomorrowland, they actually combined those tracks in order to create one amazing circuit right there. But and I think Bob Gurr goes over it, to constantly refine this specific attraction took so much time. And they eventually got, a version that you actually see on screen right there, which is actually very reliable, very consistent, doesn't suffer from a lot of the damage that was done, especially for those early models. They didn't have bumpers originally, so that just was.
And as I remember, isn't there a pedal on the outside that a cast member could stand on to brake it, to stop it?
Yes,
in case people were jamming into the guy in front of them too much.
And I believe to accelerate it as well. I think it's got a multi-action pedal right there, which is very, very cool. And originally, they didn't have a track at all. You could actually pass the car in front of you. That was pretty wild. So everybody loves this attraction. However, it does have problems, right? There are maintenance issues. You do have a conversion process ahead of you, which is going to be very, very expensive, and we're still trying to see how they will actually accomplish that without batteries, maybe. And it takes up a lot of land. Go ahead, Lou.
Well, I was going to ask, I don't remember when they announced the electrification. Were they going to just plug them in at night to recharge them, or was there going to be some kind of inductive charging when they were parked at the station, or what was the deal on that? I don't remember.
Well, that's the thing. Nobody really knows how that process is actually going to go, because to do batteries is very, very expensive and obviously needs to, you need to switch them out on occasion, right? Or you could do a bus bar type system that powers these vehicles as they go, which is possible. But then now you're talking about a real installation as it pertains to the track itself. So
right.
I have no idea how this is going to go, and we have had no details on this. But we do know that, well, occasionally your vehicle might just have the ability to jump the track. So keep an eye out for that, I guess.
The track or the shark, we shall see.
We shall see indeed. And it looks like we have a huge raid coming in from the Pro Show. Thank you so much, Bro. And thank you so much, Jonas, for setting that up in the background. Very much appreciate that. We have All the Bradley's Fun. We have Fletcher Williams. We have Emily Kruger, Jim D. Thank you so much for joining us today.
With all due respect to the Pro Show, folks, you missed cookies. So get here earlier next time because you did miss cookies.
Yeah. Wow. And next time, we'll promise that Erika brings enough for all of you, whether you're joining at the time or not, right there. I guess this brings us to our lead story. This coming out of Blog Mickey. This just broke today, and well, they were able to catch something in action. Here you go. Blog Mickey, Big Thunder Mountain refurbishment update. New vehicle barn, most track installed, but failed the envelope testing. This June 10th, 2025, I believe.
This is astounding to me. This is just astounding.
It's been a little bit since we checked in on the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad refurbishment project, so we made it out to Magic Kingdom recently for a sort of mega update on the project to reset what has been done and where we're at. In short, the project appears to be progressing nicely, but there are still some hurdles to clear before we start seeing runaway mine cars barreling around the mountain again. They go over a new backstage vehicle barn. That's very, very interesting. Sightline issues, but apparently only Universal suffers from those problems. I can't keep track anymore. This vehicle storage location, by the way, is very interesting because it's on the other side of the Walt Disney World Railroad, and so the Walt Disney World Railroad and Big Thunder cast members have to coordinate with each other to actually have vehicles cross that track at various times. It's wild. A few touch-ups right here. And let's see if we can get to it. You give me a second, guys. Sorry, it's embedded deep down the article. Here you go. Let's see. All the way down. Speaking of the over water U-turn, the familiar yellow frame is still in the same spot. I'm not sure what this device does, but it has been in position for quite some time. Perhaps sort of a chassis clearance device, whereas the envelope test is more for guests. That's interesting. Speaking of the envelope test device, so
here we go. And then we should explain what that means to people who don't understand roller coasters. When you're building a roller coaster, whether it's new or a renovation, you do this. You see all those feelers sticking out? Those are the extent to which a person in the ride could reach out or stand up or do anything other stupid. And they want to make sure they can't get hit by anything hard and impactful and more intense than wave pools at Blizzard Beach or whatever.
Yes.
In other words, it's a lawsuit protection device aside from being a safety factor. And the obvious question is, if you're just replacing the track and it's the same ride and the same pattern, what changed that suddenly this thing isn't passing when it used to?
Right. And this envelope of protection test has gotten more sophisticated over the years. You'll note, actually, that with Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, it was just basically this apparatus that had planks of wood on the side. And so, and that would essentially duplicate, like Lou said, somebody that had a really long span, like his arms were really long. Can you actually touch the sides of whatever tunnel or interior space, whether that be track or whatever? Can you make contact with that?
Excuse me while I touch this, guys. Anyway.
And back in the day, when that, like those planks of wood right there would break off, then you would just go to that, place of the track after seeing those planks of wood dislodged, and you would kind of go and you would follow it and go, oh, here you go. This is that plank of wood. Now we have to bump out this border or whatever. Well,
and we see it being used in all of this build up to Epic Universe too, on all those coasters. So it's not like, it's a pretty standard thing with roller coasters.
Right. It is.
Especially with roller coasters that have artistic rock work rather than just open track. Because, the artist adds a half an inch here and a 3/4 of an inch of plaster there. And before you know it, what are known in the roller coaster biz as the head chopper moments become real. So.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of the envelope test device, we can see that it is currently stuck in a portion of the track where there is not enough clearance. Like many of the old school roller coasters, and I'm looking at you, Space Mountain, there are opportunities for guests with impressive wingspans to touch the facade at Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It will be interesting to see if Disney chisels away at the facade here when the envelope testifies.
By the way, we should mention it's not just about reaching out. It's about when you get thrown up out of the seat against the safety bar, the air time, the hang time, and you're suddenly 6 inches or even more higher than you were sitting in the seat flat. So
correct. Yeah, there's a variety of instances in which we need to know exactly where riders can actually make contact with facade, track, whatever. And you can see it's likely failing this test. I do like how the paint on the rockwork appears to be worn in this area where guests can come into contact with the mountain. It's sort of like a real-life version of the gag below from the now closed Muppet Vision 3D attraction at Disney's Hollywood Studios. You can see that right here. Only in Big Thunder Mountain Railroad's version, the guests could probably get hurt. We'll see if Disney makes some changes at Thunder.
Go down to that. That's kind of a joke on the real world. There's a bridge. Is it Chicago? Is it? I forget where. But now I've seen several of them where they hang a banner about 6 feet in front of an overpass, and it says, "If you hit this banner, you will hit that arch." So
yes,
people drive through anyway. So
there's a low-hanging bridge, and the name of the channel is the actual size of it. I think it's like 17.8 or something like that. Yeah. And it's something where there's like a huge drainage pipe or like, I don't know, it's like an
overpass of some
irrigation pipe below.
Or something. Yeah,
there's a railroad bridge above. You can't go below, you can't go up, so you just have to have all these signs say, hey, you can't pass past this point. And unfortunately, some people don't see that signage. Well, you can obviously guess where that goes.
Especially trucks, where the driver is inexperienced and is figuring the clearance of the cab and not of the much higher trailer behind them, these container trailers.
Yeah. So when we examine something like Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, again, that was opened, I want to say Walt Disney World's is 1980, but I could be wrong there. Oh, yep. There you go. Charlie Zulu Oscar with the win, 11'8". That's it exactly. Yeah, that's actually pretty short, but there you go. Definitely check that out. We'll check that channel out when you have some time. But with Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Magic Kingdom, I want to say it opened in 1980. This is, a very, very old coaster. We're looking at 45 years now, if my math is correct. So,
as far as we know, there haven't been any accidents or injuries in the past either.
Mm-hmm. But I think that envelope of protection standard has maybe been enlarged since the time that this actually opened, and that's why they might be having problems. And here's the thing, folks. Whenever you do a massive overhaul like the one we're seeing right now, you do get to a point where the grandfathered in status or nature of these attractions no longer applies. And this is why, by the way, we will likely never see something like this done at the Matterhorn bobsleds over there at Disneyland. That being a retrack, of course. And the reason why is because it takes it out of that grandfathered status. And we know that going on the Matterhorn bobsleds at Disneyland, there are plenty of times when people with a large wingspan or maybe even just putting their hand out can touch areas of the track that they're not supposed to, because that was opened in 1959. That was the first tubular roller coaster.
When Garnet, the Imagineer, said, people aren't that stupid. They're not going to stick their arms out. Yes. And they were right. And they were right. Now, not so much. So.
And there's great stories of Bob Gurr actually teaching himself trigonometry to actually figure out how this would actually work. Nobody had ever done a steel tubular steel roller coaster before, so it's an incredible feat of engineering. And it was made at a time in a bygone era, which is why that track is so rough as it is. If they were to change out the track, now those envelope of protection standards that were very applicable in 1959 don't hold up in 2025. Erika, have you heard of something like this happening? And do we anticipate that Big Thunder is in trouble, or do you think they'll be able to make those modifications, smoothly for its big reopening date in 2026?
So I'm new to this avenue of roller coasters. Fascinating with the clearance thing. I always wondered how they measured for that.
Well, now you know.
We'll figure it out. I mean, they had the whole refurbishment's going to take a year, which sucks, but it is what it is.
Did you notice the name of the guy at the bottom, not Bullion? When you get on one of those signs, Vash, past it, freeze it, because it talks about somebody named You Be Patient. And I thought, boy, his phone keeps ringing.
I was thinking bra.
There. Now go a little further.
There you go.
Interim foreman, You Be Patient.
Yeah, that's a joke off of the ride vehicles themselves. So like the lead cards, which are basically made to look like steam train engines. One of them's UB Bold and a couple of others. So it's kind of right in line right there. That's pretty funny. But yeah, it's these things do happen, but I think it's really important to note why certain attractions don't get redone or heavily redone because they can lose that status. In fact, actually, apparently Montezuma's Revenge at Knott's Berry Farm, when it was going to be redone as what? Montezuma something or another. I can't remember the name that they picked out for it. Apparently, when they got rid of the track for that Schwarzkopf coaster, they may have cut so much of it away as to lose the grandfathered in status of that specific attraction. So now you're caught into a position where it's like, we originally anticipated that we would only get this far into it and not have to deal with the updating, let's say, and we could retain our grandfathered in status. But apparently that's no longer the case. Well, thank you, Jim T. Very much appreciate that. And so now it's like, what do we do? And so for years now, that coaster's no longer available, and that might have been why. Ooh, Bad News Badger coming in with the 100 Danish, I want to say krona? Crowns? I don't know. Let's go ahead and look up the DKK there. That is, yes, Danish krona. There you go. Okay, I wanted to make sure. Not really theme park, but there is more often than one would expect news reports here about tourist buses involuntarily converted to open-air vehicles due to low-hanging overpasses. Oh, well, that's very, very interesting. Thank you so much.
Not just buses. There's a video somewhere on YouTube criticizing a lady captain of one of those boats on the canals in Amsterdam for going into a bridge overhead because she came too close to. Remember, there are arches. So if you're in a boat, you want to be in the middle because that's the highest clearance. But as it starts to get to either end, it gets a little shorter. So,
how very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Bad News Badger, for that and for the super chat. You are excellent. We'll have to munch on the status of Big Thunder going forward. Oh, go ahead, please, Erika.
I just have a question. Is it that they're building the track a little bit more elevated, or are the trains more elevated than they were before?
That could possibly be an issue. So your mounting points could be different. I know that to redesign the track or to remanufacture the track, I should say, for Big Thunder at Disneyland, they were very careful to follow the layout very closely. But your mounting points, could be different, and that could be elevating it as well. I do think that the envelope has expanded since this attraction originally made its debut, and that's probably what we're seeing right there. But who knows? I know that some of that rock work will have to be cut up and redesigned in order to accommodate for that. That's for sure. Mary Vita with the 199. Rename it Queen of Hearts, quote, off with their heads. That's not bad. Not bad, Mary Vita. Coming in here with the jokes. I love it. And thank you so much for the super chat. Again, we'll have to monitor this more closely as time goes on. I think this reversion is very, very interesting, and it's one of the most ambitious that Magic Kingdom has undertaken, and perhaps more are in its future. Here we go. This is a very interesting story. I want to go ahead and put up on screen right now. From that Bartplex exclusive, new details on Disneyland Forward expansion reveal, hidden timeline, local tensions, and the long-term battle over Harbor Boulevard. Now, we covered this extensively on that Park Place Extra Magic Hours last week. If you did not see that stream, folks, you'll be getting clips of those throughout the week right there to update you on all the happenings relating to Disneyland Forward. However, I want to go ahead and put this on screen right now. Disneyland significantly scales back expectations for the new Avatar land coming to Disney's California Adventure. What is Pro referring to in this article? Well, they put out this concept artwork that you see on screen right now for the update to say, hey, look, listen, this is officially going into the Hollywood Land section of this theme park. And everybody's like, hey, great, we finally got something, tangible that we can see, and now we know the place of it, and now we can kind of understand exactly how big that space is going to be. I think a lot of people initially thought, oh, are they going to take up all of Hollywood Land? Well, no, they clarify that, like, for example, the Hyperion Theater will be staying. And so a lot of people are like, okay, well, maybe it's only a partial amount of that Hollywood Land area. And that is correct. Now, this is very different from when they originally debuted the original art for this. You can see the scale is very different. I mean, there's a lot.
In other words,
here
they've gone from making the bloomin' onion design back into an appetizer from when it used to be an entree.
Yes, indeed. And when we're examining that Hollywood Land area, we can see, if we scroll down here, there's this tweet by Mouse Gamer, which does some excellent stuff. And I don't know if he's blocked me or something, but I am rarely notified of his tweets, and that's a very a big shame right there. But you can kind of see where exactly this Avatar destination is going to be. And from what I understand, the size of this is going to be limited in two ways. One, it can't take up all the area to the north of it in this new elevated pathway or walkway section of this map that you're actually seeing on screen right here, because obviously it has to. You have to allow for foot traffic in and out of the Esplanade and all of that. Okay, so it's going to be reduced a little bit by to allow for that. But from what I understand, it might also be reduced by the monorail as well. You can see the monorail track here kind of goes right through current Hollywood Land, especially that backlot area. Well, that is not changing. I got a good source on this, and he was telling me, look, the monorail track will not be affected whatsoever, as opposed to the original Disneyland Forward plan that actually did have this monorail beam moved. What that means is that Avatar might just take up the area to the north of that monorail beam. Now, I don't have that specific aspect 100% confirmed, but due to the discourse of our conversation, that's what was alluded to. Go ahead.
Part of the possibility of that is because all that bus loading and unloading area you're seeing north of there is going to get moved over to the other side of harbor, to the parking structure.
Yes, to the parking structure.
So they'll only need the bridge and the walkway to get to the Esplanade rather than all that depth.
Right. Exactly. And you can kind of see where roughly this Avatar portion might actually go via this area calculation right here, but you can kind of see how much acreage is available if you don't go beyond these monorail tracks. You can see it's a little under 7 acres. Well, that's half. I repeat, half the size of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And again, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, for all it offered, well, we only got 2 attractions out of it. At half the size, well, we're only getting 1 attraction for Avatar, not the 2.
How does this compare to Avatar at Animal Kingdom as far as acreage? I'm curious.
It's smaller, certainly, than Avatar at Animal Kingdom. I believe Animal Kingdom, I haven't done the area calculation for that in some time, but I thought it was anywhere between 8 to 10 acres. So it is smaller. And here's the thing. That attraction that is there, the lead attraction, is actually constructed into one building. One building houses both Avatar, Flight of Passage, if I'm not mistaken, and then Na'vi River Journey. Okay, one building, right? Well, that Na'vi River Journey boat ride is very, very small. Like, it's very, very short. And the lead attraction, the e-ticket attraction, Flight of Passage, while it is very impressive, those 2 theaters are really the size of I mean, basically it's a larger Soarin', right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of how that ride functions. So to do one boat ride, that's basically going to be all we're getting, at least from what I can tell. There's really no more room to allow for anything else, like a secondary attraction, which Imagineering does like to provide for its guests, right? They like to have a kind of a thrill attraction, a family-friendly attraction. This might only contain one, maybe a shop,
even more so having two attractions lately, so that when one of them, as is seemingly inevitable, is down, they've got someplace for people to go.
Indeed, exactly. 7 acres, and that's at full build out. I mean, who knows if we can even get this much room out of it. When examining the concept art more closely, it doesn't look like, whatever show buildings that they actually provide are going to go that far and that deep. So it might even be less than what you're actually seeing on screen right now. Whew, folks, the purpose of this segment right here is to set your expectations accordingly. And that's not just limited to Avatar, but also Coco. So Coco was also said to be occupying a space in Disney California Adventure, which, I think they even, when they announced this project, they said it was going to go in Disney California Adventure, and everybody was very excited for that. Now, people speculated as to where this was going to go. My thought was, hey, look, listen, if you're only going to get a boat ride out of this, the perfect place would be that Hollywoodland area, simply for the fact that you can utilize a larger portion. You're not necessarily limited to the very constrained theme of Avatar, right? And you wouldn't have to necessarily get rid of all that much in order to incorporate that into this section of the park. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. They are going to go sort of in this direction. Let me go ahead and get you on screen right now. Here you go. If we examine that concept art, it's roughly, the entrance to this is roughly where my camera is pointed right now, and in this direction. Kind of like that. Okay? They're also saying that all of the facilities on stage will be preserved. And from what I'm hearing from my source, all of the backstage areas will also be preserved. All the backstage facilities, that is. Well, what that means, folks, is that this attraction will also be hindered by what's currently existing. You can see right here, if we were to utilize all of that backstage area and have nothing displaced, either on stage or backstage, we can see that you only really get 1.3 acres. The closest analogy or analog to this at Disneyland Resort anyway is It's a Small World. That's about 2 acres. That includes its queue, exterior, and all that. Well, that was, by the way, that's designed back in the 1960s. Remember we were talking about that era, that envelope of protection, folks? What we're likely to see here is a very, very, very small boat ride, and I think a lot smaller than people might be imagining. Lou, Erika, do you disagree? Your thoughts, comments, and all this and more?
Well, the obvious question also is, since in theory there is a plan to bridge from this across Disneyland Drive and into new areas, where's that going to go? Because it's always been imagined it would be down there as well as one up north, closer to downtown Disney. Mm-hmm. But one from Disneyland and one from here. Well, if all of this is there,
Right. So that's the other aspect of this thing. That's a great point you bring up, Lou. The Disneyland Forward plans, or at least as they've imagined them to be and have sold the city and the Anaheim residents on, convey an idea that you would have connecting paths between DCA and this parking lot over here, and Disneyland from this angle, and this parking lot here, creating a kind of complex by which you could incorporate an entirely third gate. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but that's what Disneyland Forward plans illustrate that they could do.
And the obvious place to make the southern bridge start at is that very same gap in the existing stuff that you're talking now as being the the new attraction.
Right. So you have to account for that. And of course, you don't want to build something that maybe in 5 years, 10 years time, you'll have to completely redesign or maybe even scrap. So whatever you're going to put in this location has to accommodate some future proofing. Depending on what management and Disney will actually want to do in the future. So we could be looking at a tiny boat ride. And again, boat ride. Boat rides typically take a lot of room.
Even if you double, there you go. It's a pontoon adventure. That never leaves the dock.
Yes. You can see this right here. Here, let me go ahead and put this on screen. What they've conveyed to the public regarding this Coco attraction right here. Let's see what's going to work. There you go. This is the concept artwork that they've given out before. You can see a lot of people have said that this is very similar to Rio del Tiempo at Epcot. And I remind folks, it might be. You can imagine how small that is, first of all. But two, that was created in 1982. Remember, envelope protection standards were much different. And the way these things are manufactured are much different as well. So how small, how many show scenes? I mean, what are we talking about for this ride? This could be super disappointing if, in fact, you don't want to move backstage facilities or stuff that's on stage either.
And when they talk about backstage, you'll notice that road going through. They got to have a way to transit that area with backstage stuff.
Correct. And that includes the parade. Remember, the parade floats. Yes. They make a complete circuit. They start at this facility right here, this long parade building structure. They go from there all the way to on stage, which is, they go in the back there. I believe they come off right here, if I recall, right there, that back door gate. So they make that long trek that way, and then they go all the way to the park. And then right when they get to this area right here, where that concept art roughly had us before, they go through these backstage gates, and that gets us all the way to around and then back to that parade building right here. So, like Lou said, you have to accommodate for that as well.
And by the way, go to the right.
Where does this go?
Right from here. Go to the east from here, Vash.
Yes,
we haven't even mentioned the extra backstage they're going to need to some degree for the new Marvel stuff, for the Tony Stark's Kuka arm toys.
Exactly. And we know that project's already kind of begun there. They're going to be closing off the pathway between Cars Land and Avengers Campus, which is going to be really unfortunate because now you're going to have to go all the way around in order to get to something like Guardians of the Galaxy, for example. That's going to be a nightmare for years, by the way. They've already got rid of the show that was on this facade structure right here. So it's already creating operational headaches. But I believe, Lou, the Imagineers, when they conveyed this original piece of concept artwork, and they gave the original timeline, which was supposed to be 2026, now we know it's going to be this fall. I think the thought process was, hey, let's go big. Let's give California Adventure a really for real boat ride. But I think operationally, the management there, which dictates so many of the decisions that actually can be expressed by Imagineering, I think they were like, look, we went through hell and back, let's say, over Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Remember, they had to move so many backstage maintenance facilities. They had to move the ranch, by the way. Now they ship in the horses every single day, every single night, in order to have them on Main Street, right? They had to do so much work in order to provide for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And to get that result, it was like, we're not doing that again. And I think that has now limited the scale of what could be done and what is going to be done for Coco here. And that's a real shame. That's really unfortunate. And that may have been why they moved the timeline up a little bit. Because if you're not going to have to get rid of any backstage facilities, well then, everything's open ground at this point.
I will point out that had they moved some of this backstage to the other side of the street in that big area that's now a parking lot, you would need more than just a pedestrian bridge to get over there. You'd need a road too. You'd have to build something along the lines, if anybody has seen the pictures of Fantasy Springs in Japan, where the entrance to that whole new area hides a road along the top of it that connects things for backstage.
Right. And will they actually do that?
No.
I don't know.
No,
they're not going to spend that much money.
Yeah, exactly. It's very expensive. And I will only lastly point out, to connect this with the previous story, maybe part of the problem at Disney World is that they're dealing with a whole new ball game ever since the demise of Reedy Creek as far as permitting and OSHA and all that kind of stuff. Whereas here, Cal OSHA's in your face. If you think those permits that are being delayed to rebuild the Palisades are an issue, imagine here. Imagine here.
Unbelievable. Go ahead, Erika, please.
I was going to ask, do you think that maybe they've gotten ahead of themselves on these projects? I mean,
yeah.
It seems like there's just no room. I mean, is it really worth building?
The question is, when they went through all of those struggles, and Vash and I sat here watching hours of these meetings for Disneyland Forward and finally got it approved, at a certain point, the residents are going to say, well, okay, so when already? How many years is this really going to take? And the answer is more.
Disney's on the clock right now. They have to spend at least $1.9 billion in 10 years on Disneyland Forward exclusive projects. That does not include Disneyland or Disney California Adventure. That's the real kind of thing here. So
it doesn't include anything in the existing footprints of the parks. It's everything outside of it.
Right. Go ahead, Erika.
They're bound. Are they bound by law or rules?
That was the agreement.
That's the permit they got from the city and the county and everybody to do it. So if they don't do it, suddenly it's start from scratch and apply for a new one.
Right. If they don't do it, then they lose their permitting process, which puts us back to square one right here. Now, they could spend up to $2.5 billion, but if they don't spend that much and only spend the 1.9, the minimum, they incur like a $20 million penalty. Well, I'm pretty sure they'll incur that. I don't see them spending $2.5 billion even in 10 years. But go ahead, Erika.
I got something sarcastic to say. I mean, just get rid of all the Marvel crap, Marvel crap. It doesn't belong in any of the Disney parks anyways. To me, it's not Disney. Just get rid of it. And there you go.
Let's talk about how that is true. They would rather, apparently, do a wintertime boat ride where you get wet and a spinning out in the air retread of a classic ride at Paris than do what they had intended, which was to do Marvel there too, and to do Galaxy's Edge there. So,
this is
and this is where the movie division and the experiences division butt heads.
Right.
And I spell that BUTTHEADS. Because the parks people say, well, we committed to do something with your wonderful movies, but they're not selling any tickets. And they say, well, but if you had your park up, we would sell tickets. And everybody argues. And meanwhile, time keeps on slipping into the future.
Indeed. I can tell you Marvel's not going away. In fact, it's being expanded right now as we speak, which is, if you're going to have Marvel, probably need it. But then that takes up the last bit of unused real estate at Disney California Adventure before you really have to start eating into something else. So we'll see what they do.
I remember being there opening day of DCA and parking where all this is. For the press.
Yes.
We came in the back door that way. We never came in through the front.
It was the Timon lot. The Timon lot was awesome.
That's right.
So good. I love it. Well, it's all changing. It's all changing rapidly. Speaking of changes, actually we got a notification of a big change actually happening within the halls of Imagineering. What am I talking about? From that Park Place, Disney Imagineering veteran Kim Irvine retires, leaving a complex legacy behind. This June 10th, 2025 by Marvin Montanaro. Kim Irvine, a cornerstone of Walt Disney Imagineering for over 5 decades, has retired, marking the end of an era for the company responsible for crafting Disney's theme park magic. As a legacy hire with deep ties to Disney's storied past, Irvine's career is a blend of celebrating contributions and polarizing decisions, leaving fans and critics alike debating her impact on the parks.
If you don't know who she is, you do know her mother, because you've seen her every time you've gone to Disney.
Leota Toombs. Yes, yes, yes.
Little Leota.
Her retirement closes a chapter for a family synonymous with Disney's creative heritage, as Irvine's lineage traces back to her mother, Imagineer Leota Toombs, and her father, Disney animator Harvey Toombs. Her father-in-law, Dick Irvine, is also the first executive VP and COO of Wynn Enterprises, now Walt Disney Imagineering. Leota Toombs, a legendary Imagineer, left an indelible mark on Disney's Haunted Mansion, lending her face to Madame Leota in the seance room scene and her voice to Little Leota at the ride's exit, with Eleanor Audley providing the main Madame Leota voice.
And for those who don't know what Little Leota is, that's that kind of Jackie Kennedy lady you see when you're coming back up the escalator from having gotten off the dune buggies. I always thought she looked like her, didn't you?
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, she doesn't look like Leota that we just saw. It's very interesting. Like her, I don't know, her visage is much different. I didn't get video of that, but I do have video of this right here, which is, kind of roughly in the place of where Little Leota would be. This being, not
what?
Sally?
What Sally's. Yes. I'm curious. Yeah. What does Sally say? Does she say? I mean, obviously she's got a line. Is it the same as Little Leota, or is she saying?
She does say "hurry back," yeah, but then she says stuff about Jack Skellington. Hey, bring your what is it, like a candy sack back or something like that? Something,
I hope not.
Something referring the sack of toys on his back.
I gotta research that because I might change that up in my show for Halloween.
Oh, how interesting! Well, there you go.
Anyway.
Kim Irvine followed in her mother's footsteps, serving as the face model for Madame Leota in Haunted Mansion Holiday at Disneyland, and even appearing as a maid in the 2021 Muppets Haunted Mansion special. Since joining Imagineering in 1970, Irvine rose to the role of Executive Creative Director and Director of Concept Design, shaping some of Disneyland's most iconic attractions. I put together just a little B-roll, a compilation of her work right here. And when you look at it, look. Snow White's Enchanted Wish, for example. This was a refurb done to the original 1983 version of Snow White's Scary Adventures, which then was a refurb of what came before that, back in 1955. And Scary Adventures was good. A lot of people liked that attraction, but Disney got complaints that it was a little bit too scary. So it was like, okay, let's go ahead and redo this. And, correct some of the issues with this attraction, be it that it didn't have an ending. The original Imagineers actually ran out of room because of how large Pinocchio ended up being. So I was like, okay, well, in Paris they corrected that problem, but they never fixed that issue at Disneyland up until Kim Irvine converted it into Snow White's Enchanted Wish, and it was actually done very, very well and very, very positive. You can see right here the Adventureland Treehouse over there at Disneyland. Adventureland Treehouse is awesome. It's spectacular. We waited a while for it, like two years or something like that, but we eventually got it, and it was well received, especially taking the place of Tarzan's Treehouse. You can see right here this bride figure in the Haunted Mansion as part of this refurbished effort for that attraction. Remember that queue was added, and that's where we get the carriage house. But, well, as I bring up the carriage house, that's kind of where the controversy starts with her legacy, because the carriage house, she talked about how they did hang up AI artwork, and she was, surprised by the backlash that received. She also did, for example, she redid Pirates of the Caribbean. That scene right there with the auction scene and all of that, part of the refurbishment that she led redid that scene, and well, a lot of people don't like the red scene there taking the place of the auction scene. She also imbued.
He wants the redhead.
Yes.
Right. We do want the redhead.
He wants the redhead. We want her back.
I want her back too. But, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. She also led the project. You can see right here, this is part of that redone Haunted Mansion area. That store-bought, fountain. Well, that's part of her team right there, doing stuff like that. Small World, for example. It's a small world over there at Disneyland that was imbued with characters. She led that project. And the fallout, or the backlash to that, you can actually see on Disney Plus during the Imagineering story. I believe it's episode 2 or 3 where they cover that. And apparently, she did take quite a hit, and it did profoundly affect her. So it's just like, as much as I want to love everything that Kim Irvine's done, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding her. You guys have any thoughts on any of the projects that you see on screen right now?
I'm wondering if maybe do you think she was starting just to get burned out, and that's a sign of her just exhaustion and just making quick decisions like, whatever, retiring anyways, I'm getting too old for this. I don't know, because I know I think you're right. I think in a younger era of hers, when they said, well, we can't do that because we can't spend the money, buy something off the shelf, she would have objected. I think she's realized over the years that there's no profit in that. No, they're not going to back off on money issues. So she might as well just go do it and try and find the best off the shelf stuff she could. So, it's maybe a combination of that. Her maybe annoyed with maybe her arms were just kind of twisted to make those decisions, and it's just she recognizes that's not true Imagineering, and she's just like, let me just retire then, because it's going downhill from here.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a bit of that.
In a way, like the Imagineers that got pushed out by the wokies that we heard about through the D-files and all the rest, but in a different way, because she's too big to push, but you can still make it uncomfortable for her because she knows the difference.
Yeah,
she comes from that heritage and she knows the difference.
Yeah, it's
in a way, I feel sorry for her. If there's any truth to what we're speculating here, then it kind of makes me feel sorry for her.
Well, I mean, look, she has had a front row seat at an amazing era, and I can't feel bad about that. But
true,
I suppose none of us necessarily choose the way we're going to depart. And to the degree that she could, she has. So there you go.
I find her as a decent steward of Disneyland itself. This role kind of taking on from like Tony Baxter, for example, who was the previous steward of Disneyland back in the day, up until his forced retirement. Who knows? But Kim Irvine,
that's true.
I think what happened there. Look, you're given a certain budget and you're given a certain mandate to perform actions for the Walt Disney Company, right? It's not necessarily an Imagineering mandate, but a company mandate that something like Pirates of the Caribbean has to be changed for modern audiences. It's a company mandate that, hey, a gift shop has to be installed at the exit of Haunted Mansion. It's a company mandate that, Small World have characters in them to better synergize with the Walt Disney Company as it stands. Well, imagine being faced with those projects. Obviously, they're not enviable positions to be in if you do take on those projects, right? And there's going to be a lot of backlash no matter what you do as it relates to those. But think about it for just 1 second. If, let's say, you deny or you just decline doing them. Hey, you know what? That's not my bag. Thanks, but no thanks. Well, does that really necessarily stop those projects from happening? Certainly not. They'll probably find somebody else to do that.
Exactly. If you don't do it, somebody else will. And you might think, well, at least I can retain a portion of what used to be because I care and a new person won't.
Exactly. That's exactly it, Lou. Because I think Kim Irvine did care. I think she did want to bring these projects to fruition the best she knew how. And sometimes, well, you're just in a bad position to begin with, and you can make the most of it. And attempt to preserve at least something as it relates to Disneyland. And I think that's what she tried to do. She wasn't always successful at that, I don't think. Club 33, for instance, is one of the most egregious examples that I can think of. They did redo the interior of Club 33 to a very enormous extent, utilizing some backstage areas and so forth to enlarge that out. And from what I understand, very, very well done, at least to the club members who actually have seen it. But unfortunately, the mark that it left on New Orleans Square is painfully obvious. You can see those oversized windows right there completely destroying the forest perspective that used to exist in this area. You can see the overhangs that didn't used to be there that kind of take a lot of the quaint charm away from this area. You can see that kind of bridge structure that was no longer that wasn't there up until now in order to provide for service both to and from the kind of lounge that they added. It just goes on and on. There's like this window on the front of these facades, by the way, that's off center. It's not actually on center, but in the room, Club 33, it's actually on center. So that's the prioritization that they gave to this.
Well, and the priority is, what do people pay to be in Club 33?
Right. Yeah, tens of thousands.
A whole lot of Mickey suckers have to go into that. I mean, you know. That's a lot of corn dogs. Let's just put it that way.
You could be paying as much as $25,000 a year to be on Club 33. Maybe more.
But Erika, remember, those are companies mostly, or individuals doing it through their companies, and they in turn write it off their taxes as a PR expense because they entertain clients there. So that's why there's the market, and that's why they can charge whatever they can charge.
Yeah, I think they changed the bylaws where you're not supposed to do that, but we all know that sometimes that takes place.
You're not supposed to rent out your DVC place, and you're not supposed to let friends watch your Disney Plus account, and you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to.
Yeah,
but if you're let's just say if you're paying $25,000, you can get away with a lot more you're not supposed to than the people who pay $150. That's
indeed. So. On that level, it's kind of like, well, we certainly have to expand Club 33 in order to, provide for more memberships. And who's going to, lead that project? Well, it might as well be me, that being Kim Irvine. But, when you hear her talk about, we're going to, update like the bride sequence for modern sensibilities, it's like, did you really need to put it that way? Do you really believe that yourself?
I don't think it came from her.
Yes, exactly.
That's the way it was put to her by the people who told her you do this or you wave goodbye.
Right. But you could lie. You could just say, look, listen, the bride sequence, as it was envisioned by Tom Fitzgerald, maybe that's not consistent with the story we want to tell now. We want to bring it closer to the original sequence and how that played out. So we're going to go ahead and harken off of that. It's very easy. You don't even have to mention Tom Fitzgerald if you don't want to. But there's a way to sell it, and there's a way to maybe put people off. And I think it wasn't the best choice of words. Eddie Sato did have some really amazing closing remarks. And I want to go ahead and express those right now. Eddie Sato here. Kim Irvine was a true believer and gave all for the park. We worked together in the 1990s and didn't always agree, but I respected her, quote, all-in attitude toward the park. I recall when she and her team repainted the dinosaurs on their own time, that being the Primeval World diorama that you see on the Disneyland Railroad as you go from Tomorrowland to Main Street. Yeah, that's a real story, by the way. I remember hearing that years ago. Due to no budget, they paid for the repainting of that on their own dime, just to preserve the show. And that's just one of the many examples of just making magic happen. I wish her the best.
Now that's Disney love right there.
Sure.
To preserve the show.
Mm-hmm.
Wish we had more of that.
I can't tell you how devastating it has been over the last 10 years to lose so many of those kinds of individuals from Disney parks in general, but most especially Disneyland when it was closed for 412 days. The culture is just different.
The dialogue is, that's not the way we do it. To which the management reply is, it is now.
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell.
It is.
Anyway. Hail and farewell, Kim Irvine.
Yes. Again, part of that second generation of Imagineers, the Eddie Sotos, the Bruce Gordons, the Tony Baxters, all of that. She was definitely a part of it. Like Lou said, she got a front row seat, which was awesome. And I, for one, am glad that she stayed on as long as she did. Although her projects, right, they are, let's say, controversial in their own right.
Well, the big question is she writing a book? And if she does, will she tell all?
She might be. This is actually interesting.
I would read that.
Dusty Sage from Mice Shed actually says this when announcing this news. By the way, this originated with the Mice Jet right here. It says it right here. We hope Kim won't remain silent in retirement. And with no corporate overlords left to answer to, she may finally be free to speak her mind about the direction the parks are headed. A little pointed prodding from a seasoned pro can make all the difference, even if it won't stop the upcoming invasion of blue aliens.
There's got to be NDAs aplenty going on here, too.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Non-disclosure agreements, and I mean, obviously, I don't think she has financial issues that would inspire, I have to write a book. And so maybe she'll just say, you know what, I think I'll just spend whatever time the Lord gives me left to spend with my friends and doing things I like. And it was fun, but now it's changed. It's changed. That's all. I don't know. I would advise her that way if I were her friend, because you spend more time living instead of regretting. A book like that has got to be so soul-searching to go over all those events again in your mind and put them into words, and try and be careful that you're not goring some of the people that you liked. And that's a tough thing. That's a tough thing.
It's a really tough thing, and I do wish her all the best. And hey, you know what? Her castle repaint job right there, I think was freaking awesome. And so that'll forever be basically kind of a tribute to her in some respects. So
I mean, I was offered years ago an assignment, a possibility to write a kind of tell-all about the entire Robert Mondavi winery family and history, which is quite contentious. I decided I really didn't want to. That it was just more. I would have made a lot of money. I got to tell you, they were offering big bucks. But as I've said before about a lot of my career, I would have been richer and famouser if I didn't have standards about not working with or about a-holes, And so call me stupid, call me non-competitive, but that's just the way I feel. And that would be my advice to her, too, if I knew her. And I don't. Anyway.
Indeed. Well, that just about wraps up our show here, T3PO Live. We're going to end just a little bit early today because, boy, oh boy, if you've seen where I've been the last couple of days, you know that I should probably get some more rest rather than talking all about theme parks, and that just says more for next time. Lou, what do you got coming up over there, good sir?
Well, of course, as you know, we do the genre guys. And when's the next one coming to here, by the way? What movie are you next representing? For those who don't know, and I say this all the time, and some of you have heard it, I feel like I'm the if you're caught or killed, the secretarial disavow your action guy around here when I say this. But so many of our wonderful members on the Pro Show offer 20, 50 free memberships to people, and they think, oh, wow. And part of that membership perk is to see the genre guys when they first come out. And I can tell you that we used to record one a week. Now we're recording 2 every other week to give ourselves time for other projects, because Lauren's got a new nighttime show and one thing or another. But we just recorded this past Saturday night an interesting double feature, which, if not that it'll be presented that way, they'll be presented individually, but we recorded You Only Live Twice, the James Bond movie, and we recorded, what was the other one? Well, anyway, I'm old, my mind goes. If it's over, it's done. Next time we're recording, oh boy, did I hate this movie. And I'm going to have so much fun talking about how awful it is. And that is Batman Forever. I called it the MTV very gay take on Batman. And I'm not mad at it for that. It's just that it's just whatever fond memories you may have when you watch it again, you're going to say, how did I even tolerate this? It's that bad. And we're going to do the great outdoors, which should be fun. You know, the great outdoors. There, Batman. Yes. Oh, God. Oh, my God. And I tell you what, I had a whole new respect. I love Val Kilmer. I'm glad he thought he could make something out of this. But Keaton said no when he got the story and the script. And boy, I respect him for turning that down, because that would have been a big payday. But he just said, I can't do it this way. But anyway, so you get those for free when you become a WDW Pro member. But then 3 months later, they are recycled with even more visual enhancement by Vash to show up for free on T3PO. So there's those. And the thing I always tell people is, when a month after you get that freebie, you get a little note from YouTube saying, hey, want to re-up? It's only X number of dollars, and it's nothing. I mean, really, compared to big things that you could buy online, like $80 popcorn buckets. Still can't get over Galactus's head as a popcorn bucket for $80. My God.
$80.
Anyway,
that's crazy.
That's almost as silly as spending $300 million on an animated movie, but we could talk about that, and we won't. Anyway, I do that, and I do, as we just did last night, the Monday night pro show, which you hosted, the first pro show ever without pro. Vash was the pro bono substitute. Anyway, and was great. And then, of course, I'm here. And then after that, it's kind of catch as catch can where people find me. But I'm around. And, of course, our Sunday extravaganza every week where we try and answer questions. I don't know if you want to pop that email address up again, but
absolutely. T3PO.
If you have a question about Hollywood and how it really works, as opposed to how the mainstream media would like you to believe it works, and it doesn't get too personal, I'll be happy to answer them there and live on the show. There's a new contract. Did you see SAG made a deal with the video game people? And there's all kinds of new stuff going on. So that's what I do.
Maybe we'll talk about that on Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you.
I bet we will. I bet
2
we
p.m.
will.
Eastern. And great outdoors. Look at that. The cabin. John Candy, Dan Aykroyd. That's moved around a lot, by the way. That's very, very strange.
Yes, I remember when they first had it. It was a big deal on the tour because people liked that movie, and you drove right by it on the tram. But Universal.
Hang with Erika and Raf. What do you got going on there, Erika?
Well, not a whole lot. Just stream hopping wherever I'm invited. That's kind of been my thing lately. So you can find me here. I'll be on Lorena's Spice Lounge tonight at 7:30 Eastern time.
Ooh, is that tonight? I love the Spice Lounge. And you have become a valuable fixture there too.
Yeah. And Lou, there's I don't know his last name, but his first name is Cameron. He's a writer for in the industry, in the Hollywood industry, and he's going to be on her stream tonight. We're going to be talking about Sinners and I guess more Hollywood stuff from his perspective. Really interesting guy. I met him about a month ago on her stream, and just fascinating things. So yeah, I highly recommend Lorena Creel's Spice Lounges. They're so much fun.
And as I've said before, Lorena does, with all respect to all of our other friends, some of the very best walk through the park and see what's going on shows of anybody online. I mean, really and truly. If you haven't been to one of the parks with Lorena live, you haven't been.
Yeah, I love how she keeps it real. She reminds me of me. Like, here's that. No, you don't want to spend your money on that. But if you come over here, she just
right.
breaks it down. I mean, very bluntly, straightforward, no pixie dusting. I love it. So yeah, I'm just stream hopping, and I know I got to get some content up there. We've just, got family things going on, and it's, but we'll get there.
Yeah, so do I. We have a new grandson on the way, and the most recent one just turned 2, and they had a big party. And turns out he's getting a younger brother down the road. And I tell you what, if you don't have kids and grandkids, get some, people, because they'll make your later years even more wonderful than they should be. So there's my little free commercial for procreation.
Indeed. Well, need more people out there. So what do you know? Well, thank you so much for joining us here on T3PO Live. We're going to go ahead and redirect you over to Mr. H, currently in progress right now. Hey, on your way out, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, hit the like button. That definitely helps us out. If you like us a lot, be sure to share us out. That always helps us out in a big, big way. And hopefully we can provide more of that, well, that news that should be fun. Let's go ahead, go over there to Mr. H. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.